So let's start looking at pose estimation. So for most of this week, we'll look at this notebook. So this notebook will include how to detect the number of people in each clip, the pose estimation, as well as the face estimation. So minus the sort of video guidance with frames, everything else will happen in this notebook this week. So as always, we're going to connect to our drive so we can pull in our film clips. For this notebook, we do not need a GPU, so you don't need to set that. I always recommend high RAM being turned on. So again, we can go to our runtime, change runtime type. Oh, let me connect here real quick. So to make sure we're using the high GPU or the high RAM CPU, we're going to make sure we're at hardware accelerated and high RAM is checked on. This probably should be already set up when we open our notebook because I think it saves whatever settings I use, so you should have that. But just make sure you have high RAM. If you don't have high RAM on, especially when saving to JSON, it tends to crash sometimes. Okay, so now we're set up here. So let's go ahead and install the person detection tools. This works just like the object detection tools we used last week, except this week we're only going to filter by the person object type. Go ahead and save our model as well. And we're just going to switch over to our tools here. And this next cell just will save a bunch of our functions. So it's going to figure out how to grab the number of people as well as how to process video. All right, so now we're set up here. Let's go ahead and make sure this is working correctly so we can go ahead and find a frame to look at first. So let me just go in here and look at some frames we have to offer. I want to make sure that I grab one that has a person in it, so it looks like scene 77 has one in it already. Go, and I'll just double click one of these randomly. There you go. So there's some blurry people, and it looks like there's 2 people in this scene. So let's see if it finds 2 people. I'm just going to set this up so we can easily add this. Quit making a mess of this. There we go. Paste that in, and then we'll use that path here. And then we run the cell, and we should, when this finishes, we should get out a number of 2. And sure enough, we do. So this is working exactly how we want it to. Pretty blurry, and there was a person behind the other person, so even with that, it's kind of lucky that it actually works as well as it does, but it does work. So now I want to test this on a video, so let's actually use that exact same video file. Let's use scene 77. And now what this is actually going to do behind the scenes, if you want to look at the code, is it's going to go through every 24th frame. Again, we don't really need all the frames. It's a lot of processing. It slows things down if we run every single frame. So it's going to go through every 24 frames, so basically 1 frame a second, and it's going to pull out the person count. And then it's going to look for the maximum total of people it finds. So, you know, if someone walks into a scene while someone else is standing there, we actually want to make sure we have 2 people and not just 1. And that's what this is going to do. So we'll go ahead and run this cell. And it still finds 2. So that is great. We are seeing it working as expected here. And let me just clean this up a little bit. And now we're ready to run this on all of our video clips and to process everything and save it to our JSON file. So same as before, you're going to want to set your JSON path. So again, mine is set to content drive, my drive, algo film, underscore video underscore clips. And then you want to set a filter. And I think I've already processed all of the Punch Drunk Love clips, so I'm going to instead process my Night of the Hunter clips. So I'll go ahead and run this. This always happens sometimes when I stop these things. So let me resave this file correctly. I think if I close the cell in the middle of trying something, it actually kind of corrupts the JSON data, so I need to run this cell to reset all the JSON data. But let's make sure that I'm right there. There we go, let's try it again. All right, so far so good. Now this process shouldn't take too long. I think for me, when I was running this on a 90-minute film, it took about 25 to 30 minutes to process. Obviously that's slow, but when I was running this before on every single frame, it was taking a very, very long time. So hopefully with just the every frame per second, it actually processes a little bit faster. You'll see now I'm getting that a bunch of my files have already been processed, but eventually here, we should begin to see it processing Night of the Hunter films. There we go. So we're now processing our data set, and we're seeing there are 5 people. Interesting. 5 people in what I think is a title sequence. So again, maybe some of these are incorrect, but this gives us at least a best guess to start with. And what we're going to do when we jump to the posed estimation section is we're actually going to filter our results by these numbers. Because again, the posed estimation stuff works best when it's actually looking for the right amount of people. If you are looking at a clip with only one person in it and you say there might be 5 people, it will likely make up people to try to find that data. So it's always good to sort of set it by the exact number of people in the scene. So in this case, where we're seeing 1, we're going to want to filter by that and actually just process our pose estimation on those 1 versus 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we'll show you how to do that in the next video. So at this point, we're just going to let this run until it finishes, and then we'll go ahead and jump over to actually doing the pose estimation. So we'll head over there now.